Hello and thanks for joining the midweek edition of Journalist Hangout. I'm Ayodele Uzubakun. Today on the program, Senate concurs with House of Representatives on Edo Assembly crisis, gives Governor Obaseki 1 week ultimatum to issue fresh proclamation. Senate confirms 43 ministerial nominees, names 69 standing committee chairmen, and later on the show, BORNO governor raises alarm, says Boko Haram using drones to monitor troops' operation. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Mojid Jamiu. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for joining us. Now, the alleged personality crisis between Edo State Governor Godwin Obaseki and the national chairman of the APC, Adams Oshiomhole, is turning into a battle for the soul of the South-South states. It has spiraled into the state's House of Assembly and attracted attention of the National Assembly. On Tuesday, the Senate concurred with the House of Representatives in calling for sanity in the Edo Assembly. The senators, after adopting reports of the Haddock Committee on the matter, asked Governor Obaseki to issue a fresh proclamation letter for the inauguration of the Assembly within 1 week. They said anything contrary will force them to invoke constitutional powers and take over functions of the State Assembly. The die is cast and all we await is the outcome. Gentlemen, let's give our viewers a kind of background to this, Babajide.
Yes.
Anything happening in the State House of Assembly, some people will not get the larger picture that it's just solely a fight for the battle, a battle between Adams Oshiomhole and his successor, Godwin Obaseki. And that has translated to what is happening in the State House of Assembly. So the two houses, that's the National Assembly, the House of Reps said earlier, the House of Reps has the constitutional powers to run Edo State House of Assembly directly from Abuja. They can invoke that session if the Edo State House of Assembly does not comply with this directive. But Governor Obaseki is saying that, look, this is unconstitutional. I think somebody will go to court at the end of the day.
Yes, I think that what Obaseki is capitalizing on, and I'm really ashamed that Obaseki could be behaving like this, because Obaseki is an APC governor. APC prides itself as being superior to the PDP in terms of morality and in terms of doing things right. But look at what we are saying. It's a shame, whether we like it or not. And when people look at what is happening, they will be asking themselves, is there really a difference between these two parties? Because if for years PDP demonstrated an appetite for impunity, we are beginning to see APC do that now. Because what Obaseki is doing is a celebration of impunity. There's no other way by which you can describe the immoral thing that is going on in that place. How can Obaseki, a governor who I've always respected and seen as a dignified individual, a gentleman, promote an idea that would suggest that 9 will be greater than 15? In today's Nigeria, because they did it during the governor's forum election the other day.
And good luck, Jonathan.
Yes. And we harass them to no end. Alhaji Lai Mohammed and other people harass them to no end. We are seeing that now. What Obaseki is counting on is that provision says when it is impossible to run the house.
So it's not possible to...
But they are running the house with 9 persons, so you know. So they are going to argue that no, this has not reached the point of emergency. The house is being run By how many people?
Out of 24.
By how many people? By 9 persons. How can a governor encourage this kind of thing? All for what? Because of this power? Power that will leave behind this world and go? Politicians are difficult to like. Honest, politicians are just difficult to like for people like me. This is a fact. That's why I can't work for a politician. I'll say this. Some idiots on Facebook say, hey, baby, Buhari didn't give him an appointment. That's why he criticizes this government. I don't need Buhari's appointment. If he gives me, I will reject it. I swear to God. But we'll tell our politicians the truth. Because there's no other way to resolve this matter beyond what the Senate is doing. This is the way to resolve this matter. Go ahead, issue a fresh proclamation.
Everybody
Let everybody be involved.
And everybody should attend.
Don't organize a Jankara inauguration at midnight. I witnessed that of Fayemi. He too was there because his brother was elected into the
Deputy
House.
Speaker.
We were there. We risked abduction by kidnappers on that your corridor. We went there.
On the way to my rustic village.
Your rustic state.
Your
our state.
Your adopted state.
Yes. I was there. We risked being kidnapped.
Everybody,
well, we went there.
They reach a consensus on who is going to get what.
We were happy.
Because also a member of the TVC family also got elected into the House.
Yes,
not
Honorable, yes.
Are you saying that? Is that where we are now?
No.
That it was just because somebody from TVC was elected that I went?
No.
So Kimo cannot organize something now.
No, I'm just adding to what you have said.
Okay, your intervention on this now.
You see, I'm going to differ seriously from Jide's views here.
It's allowed.
Because, you see, I have been inside. I've seen politics. A former governor.
So you could have done what...
No, I'm not saying that.
No, let's be clear. So
no.
Let's hear him now.
Let's see why I differ from you is because, see, as a governor of a state, somebody once told another governor, say, guy, you can't allow someone else to put you on the lap and assume you are governor. You have to act that role.
Through impunity, ba?
No, not through impunity. See,
let's go.
now, we need to set some of these facts clear. Fine, what Obaseki is doing is not right, but 2 wrongs cannot make it right. Oshiomhole was former governor of that state for 8 years. He is the chairman of that party. The former chairman of that party is also from that state. Now, Oshiomhole's younger brother, Seidu Oshiomhole, is also going into that house. So, some of these factors, and the governor knows that you need to have an understanding. You need to have a control, so to say, of the house if you must operate. But in a situation where the governor alleged that there was an election, somebody came from Abuja and overturned everything while he is sitting. The election that produced these assembly members. Now,
how?
See,
I think he's talking about their internal election within the APC.
The internal crisis. But there was a proclamation at night, which the police said was at night. But then the issue now is
so the man who shot the gun.
even at the Senate, the proper procedure, I mean the normal procedural rule, where you take a decision on certain matters, I mean, was not followed. Remember, Okorosha raised an issue that the Senate must be careful in acting on the Edo crisis. That is better solved via like a family issue because now we should also recall that there is a subsisting matter in court on which states that the Federal High Court Abuja states that status quo as at July 25 must be maintained.
What is the status quo?
The status quo as at July 25 is that there is a speaker.
Okay.
Now they said they have grown to 11.
Elected by 9 persons, have you?
No, 12. There are 12 of them now. And
When you did your own in Ekiti and your brother emerged as deputy speaker,
there were 26.
Was it minority that elected your brother?
No, there were 26 of them. No. You see, but the thing is, a governor can't allow himself.
But he has to reach out as long as. So let me tell you, I know where you are going. This man should not fold his hand and allow an outside force to control the house for him. But if you are not a political neophyte, as they are getting into that place, he will, by himself, seize control of the house. If you are unable to reach out to people, and an outside force has greater support amongst elected members than you, then you have failed. You are supposed to reach out to them and ensure that an overwhelming majority of those people are on your side. That is what Fayemi did. How did Fayemi? There's nobody who imagined Ekiti who is not Fayemi's person.
Nobody.
Abi, you want to tell me that's what, not what happened? Okay, no, let's go on. Now, they reached out.
Yes.
If Fayemi simply folded his arms and behaved like
I can work with anybody.
A kindergarten politician, and waited for someone to come and gain control of the house. Only for him to now come and use Jakara tactics.
Prime didn't have the chairman of the party, the national chairman of the party in the state.
See, people, okay. No, we know that these things happen, but the thing is, his approach is wrong. From the beginning, he should have seized control. He should have got more members from his own party. You are a governor, you have resources. A governor will always be respected. So what were you doing? This man is not a politician. I'm telling you, a much more consummate politician will have handled this matter better. In that house, where even some of them have cases, so they have all kinds of nasty court cases. So if this same Edo House, you cannot reach out and get more people on your side. The people on the side of Oshiomhole, they are more. If they had allowed all of them to sit, Oshiomole's supporters will have produced the speaker. He saw that coming. He knew that he didn't have the number. So he had to now go and do this in the night and ensure that others were not aware that it was not going to happen. That is not the way it is designed. We were watching in my adopted state of Ekiti. We were watching with pride. Everything played out perfectly. Nobody grumbled. They have concluded everything before the day. That is how it is done. There is no way. There is no way you will come and say, "Oh, okay, later." And over, I won't be later. What is later now? He has lost it. There is no way. Let me tell you.
He has put himself on the lap.
He has put himself on his lap, on the lap. Now you are saying that they don't put, and you can't be governor and someone will put you on the lap. When he has put himself on his lap. Let me tell you, however long it takes, impunity will not triumph.
Sure.
All these court cases that they have instituted, because this is how aberrant politicians behave in Nigeria. When they misbehave, they will run to court. Because they know that their actions cannot be sustained. They run to court. So, no matter how long it takes, the truth will prevail.
You see, the thing is, Obaseki still needs to learn the rudiments of politics. I mean, he's playing with big players. I mean, rugged players. Now, he needs to learn from the likes of Obiano in Anambra how to upstage your godfather, and the likes of the governor of Autumn, the governor of
Benefits.
Sorry, Akwa Ibom, Udom Emmanuel. You see, they were able to successfully, but it is not in all cases. At times, you might get the Lagos treatment if you go the way of.
You don't even. It's not even. We've seen governors who belong to a party that didn't even control his house, the house.
And they manage.
Nasarawa, he did not control the house, but he managed to survive. Ebiano did not control the house because the PDP had more members. Here you have a governor every member of that house is APC.
So the problem is APC.
Yes, all we can have is this embarrassment that is playing out before our eyes.
Okay. All right, moving on now. After much hues and cries, the Senate finally concluded screening of the 43 ministerial nominees forwarded to the upper legislative chamber by President Muhammadu Buhari for confirmation. The senators, upon conclusion of the one-week screening on Tuesday, confirmed all the 43 nominees as ministers after several traditional take-a-bow-and-go sessions. Before proceeding on a 2-month recess, the Senate announced composition of 63 standing committee chairmen, 69 along bipartisan lines. For the executive and the legislature, all appears to be set for the real business of governance. Moji, let me start this from you. How will you rate that exercise? How will you assess the exercise by the Senate?
Same routine exercise, and but I think there is a clear and better understanding of how the legislature and the executive should work together, especially with the Lawan-led Senate. But some ministerial nominees actually stood out. You can mention Sunday Dare, Fashola, Aregbesola, and Festus Keyamo. Fantastic.
The guy from Cross River too.
And the nominee from Cross River, Jedi Agba. Now, in case Nigerians are wondering, I think we need to give them a breakdown of how the 43 ministers actually came about. We have two, none from Abuja. We have one each from each of the 36 states, with 7 states having additional one to represent each of the senatorial, the geopolitical zones. But Northwest had one extra. Whether from, there are 2 states from the Northwest, Kano and Kaduna, with
between them they are 3. Yeah,
between them they are 3. Now, also we have in the Southeast where people, there is no APC state in the Southeast. It used to be Imo, but we have Anambra having 2 ministers. That's Ngige and Sharon Ekeazo. Another I think we need to let Nigerians know is that we should commend the president. He has increased the number of female nominees from 6 to 7 now.
So by his own administration, have you?
Yeah, by his own administration. Okay. And 14 ministers from 2015 to 2019 returned, while 19, including our friend in youth and sports, that is always dressing like Jide, except Lalong, except with the cap. He's been asked to step
want to say dressing like Shomole. You say dressing like okay, no problem.
All of you dress alike. So 19 of them dropped, and I think 21 ministers, those were asked to take a bow. Ministerial nominees were asked to take a bow without being questioned, as in the tradition of the Senate. You have to be a member of the National Assembly, but there was an exception in Lai Mohammed, and all the women were asked to take a bow. They would just talk. The exception given to Uncle Lai Mohammed was that, he was the one that actually doing the much of the talking during the era of the merger. When he was the spokesperson of the party before the party took over from it. So they gave him that respect to take a bow, in addition to the National Assembly members and all the National Assembly members. So I think with that, I think we could say the process was smooth, but then I think going forward, the president should do Nigerians a favor by putting...
That's what I'm about to ask for from Jide, that Nigerians are talking about this, the screening, and saying that the president did not attach the portfolios, and the senators were just, asking random questions, and it didn't bring out the best from the nominees.
Yeah, it's, I think that was, Bukola Saraki made the point that to be part of the rule of the Senate, to insist that portfolios are attached for future. But Senator Lawan didn't really push for that. I think given how long it took us to turn in the list of ministers, the president should have attached portfolios.
Do you think it's yet to decide, or that would have been sorted?
You know, the problem was, up to the last minute, changes were being made, which was the point that I was making, that Ambode was on that list up to the last minute. I was in Abuja up till a day before the president released his list. I know many people who are on that list, and I've mentioned people like the former governor of Bauchi State, who was on that list. Bindo, former governor of Adamawa, was on that list. And
the former Interior Minister, Dambaza. So
there were many people who were dropped at the last minute, including Ambode. Even me and him, we discussed Ambode's matter at length, Mojid and I. Because what is the point? If you have sources in Aso Rock and everywhere, you should be able to know what goes on there.
Call to drop information.
Yes, it's difficult for people who have not practiced journalism to the level some of us have practiced it, or lawyers who do not know how our job is done, to sit down and imagine how does he know? Does he live in Aso Rock?
It doesn't have to be in Aso Rock.
You must live in Aso Rock to have information. It's even new to me. You know, that people will be thinking like this. So this is the thing. And in a situation whereby the name keeps changing, I know someone who was dropped on account of education, whatever, and was already favored. You know, I was telling a colleague, even Adamu was not originally supposed to be on the list. And I know that the minister of FCT was penciled down to be ambassador to Saudi Arabia. So many intrigues, so many things happen, you know. And then the president can, in the end, change his mind, you know, in trying to achieve the greater happiness for a greater number of people within his party. He has to juggle things. Tell him, say, if I do this, will it not bring, cause some problems? What if I do it this way and all that? So this is the thing, you know. So other people will benefit. The woman, Katagum, from Bauchi, came in, and Emi Abubakar lost his position, you know. I know even some people that the president will probably even have made promises to. When that time comes, he will say, okay, don't worry, I will still find you something else. I'm sorry, you will not get it. It happens. This is politics. Superior logic, superior argument from some of the people who work with the president, the Abakiaris of this world, the Mama Dauras, who have experience. Mama Daura has experience as a banker for many years. He has capacity. Some people may not like him, but he has capacity. So the president will go to him and ask, my brother, how do we do this? What do you think? And he will be able to leverage on his many years of experience as a banker to say, look, I think in handling this, this is what you should do. So those things, those factors will come to play at the last minute, and you see the kind of changes that you may not even expect will happen. So this is the thing. And given the way that went, you can now understand why even portfolios, attaching portfolios would have been difficult. Because this thing kept changing and changing. So this is the thing. But in future, we should be able to walk ahead and be able to say, okay, for this ministerial position.
The argument that the president has won his presidential election since February.
Yes.
So 5 months after.
But the presidents, this is a different kind of president. In terms of when you compare Obasanjo and this president, Obasanjo is much more of an extrovert than Buhari. Yeah. Obasanjo was going everywhere. He has friends across the country. He could, even on his own, determine that, okay, this person is good enough, I want to use him. But our president was not that kind of person.
It needs to rely on...
You had to rely on a lot of people to say, oh, these are the persons that you can use. Even Goodluck Jonathan, too, was not, he didn't have that kind of nature that Obasanjo had, that kind of network, if I can use that word. Yes. He also didn't have it. So you will need people, and sometimes you get misled, where you have to rely on people to help you take some big decisions. Well, at the end of the day...
And probably that's why the president said he's choosing people that he thinks he has some affinity.
That he knows.
That he knows.
He knows.
You see, it's a very tough task choosing ministers. A lot of things...
I will tell you something. I'll tell you about a woman. The woman from Zamfara. The group that opposed Yari, all along they felt the woman was with them because of some of her actions. But they didn't know that Yari and the woman had close ranks. So it was a massive shock to them that the moment she was made minister, it was Yari's house that she went to. And they felt, but this person had always been with us. What happened? Politics. So, politics. Nobody knows what went on. And Yari too could have felt, if this woman got this, because she's always been a Buharist, firm Buharist. But the contest in Zamfara saw her being not on the governor's side, leaning towards the other people. But before the ministerial the decision was made to release list of ministers, she had become close to Yari, and Yari pushed and ensured that she got it. So Yari's house was the first place that she went, and they were shocked. So these things, surprises will happen. Yeah,
a similar thing. A similar thing happened in Ogun. That saw the emergence of Adibite, son of former Secretary General of the NSIA. I mean, is a purely Amosu person.
Yes.
And you see that Amosu was badly bruised in the governorship. So there has to be a balancing act. And look at Oyo State, too, where Sunday Dare emerged from. I mean, it came to a lot of people as a surprise, but myself and Jide, we discussed this about a month ago that Sunday Dare is somebody to watch out for, that he might just get it, and he got it. Because, you see, Sunday speaks Hausa fluently.
He speaks better Hausa than Yoruba.
Very smart, very intelligent. You can see his presentation. And he also played a very key role in the emergence of Sanwo-Olu in Lagos. So it's moving up, and that's kudos to the Asiwaju dynasty. I mean, you can see the number of...
it brings up people from time to time.
That is. So a lot of things come into play. You see on Oyo State where you expect the Adelabus to emerge, or like a Shitu.
It was mentioned.
Yes, or even Senator Akombi. I mean, very key, prominent...
What happened to Adebayo Shitu?
Well, he didn't get it.
I don't think, even if you fought against your party, you took your party to court and all that, and they appealed to you, you wouldn't listen. I don't think the president would be excited to remove you in this way, because that would be dividing the party further.
Okay, we'll take this breather. When we come back, we'll talk more. Please don't go away. It's still Journalist Hangout. We'll be right back. If you're just joining us, this is Journalist Hangout. We are reaching you live from Television Continental here in Lagos, Nigeria, and we are looking at the just concluded screening. Ultimately, the National Assembly, that's the Senate.
If they had the portfolios, it would have been a lot easier to screen.
Yeah,
now you will be screening the individual and determining whether he has capacity for that particular portfolio. Because if you bring someone who is a lawyer and is meant to go to maybe power ministry, you will be asking him questions about power. What is his pedigree? How are we sure that he will be able to function effectively there? You'll be able to test his knowledge of that field that they are sending him to. Not simply to ask routine questions and ministerial nominees will just be blowing English and all that. No. I believe that in future, people For those who are former ministers, immediate past ministers, you can then ask them questions about their stewardship. Yeah. Why do you think you deserve to come back? So then he will be talking about his stewardship, the things that he didn't do, they'll be able to ask him. I believe that the Senate should find better ways of screening these people. If they are going to use journalists, you know, to help them, because we can ask the questions that they will not ask. For example, based on knowledge that journalists have, they are the ones who cover the activities of these ministers. But to simply be asking ministers questions that enable them to just use them to shine, and sometimes they say certain things, you are not even asking them how practicable, how they are going to be able to do it. Because I was saying, it was possible, some of the things that I heard some of them saying, if I was the one asking you a question.
Like our friend saying he's going to, within 4 years, unbundle the Supreme Court. And some lawyers have been telling me that, look, it's not, the Attorney General might not be able to...
He doesn't have that power. That's one. And then it will require even amending the Constitution for that to happen. And it is not... In the maybe even within the 4 years of an administration, you can't achieve that or more. Because it's not easy to amend the Constitution. So this is the thing. So,
MJ, Senator Ahmed Lawal actually kept to his campaign promise, and he went ahead to set up the standing committees, and it was a bipartisan move. I saw the list and I was saying, wow. What do you make of that list?
Yes, I think some names that struck me on the list, just like Gbajabi Amila also did.
Just hold your breath. I have Femi Idowu on the line from London. Thank you for joining us, Femi. Hello, Femi. Hello. Okay, MJ.
So just like the.
I just think it's more of a disservice to women. The way the hello.
Yes, Femi, you're on. Go ahead, Femi.
The way the Senate just asked women to bow and go, is it that to say women cannot take the heat from, you know, a situation like that? It's not looking good for women at all.
It's true.
Thank you, Femi.
Yeah, so, like, Gbajabi Amila also did a similar thing with members of the opposition having some share of some juicy ministry. And the one that actually struck me is that of Senator Dino Melaye, who is the chairman of...
Melaye.
Melaye, the chairman of the Aviation Committee in the Upper Chamber. So you see a Lawan that is ready to, carry everybody along. And if it continues in this, I want to see the speed with which they are going to pass the next budget and the speed with which is going to continue with the activities of the Senate, and also how he addresses issues of national security in terms of, recall that I think it was Fashola that mentioned the issue of the procurement process that's long. I want to see some of the Senate taking serious decisions on getting some of these things unbundled, breaking some of the bureaucratic nets. If you have been through the procurement process in the federal level, you will see that it is really, really a tough game. You can be, when a contract is advertised, it takes another maybe 1 year for you to get the mobilization. And in the life of an administration is just 4 years. And out of the 4 years, what you can actually say you have is about 2.5 years, because before you know it, the scramble for and partition for 2023 will begin. So, the Ninth Senate, this present crop of the Ninth Senate, they have really started very well, and I want to believe that the different committees will soon break out into their sessions and start to
Julia, before we leave this now, I checked the list and I looked out for maybe a committee that had, some specific committees, like Senator Dayo Adeyeye from Ekiti South.
Media.
Is the one in charge of media. If you remember, it was the spokesperson of the People's Democratic Party then when it was still in the PDP. And we hope, with what he's been able to do, we hope he'll be able to.
Before this, he was also the spokesman for the ad hoc committee of the Senate. So it's not a difficult job for him to do. I just hope that these people will work for Nigerians, because committee jobs are not simply for them to go and line their pockets. They are supposed to work honestly. I've seen situations in which...
Let's make this call. Tosin is calling us from Ibadan. Thank you for joining us, Tosin.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Go ahead with your contribution, please.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I just want to talk about one issue. I am happy it's happening now, because many people were saying things about the PDP then, as if the APC were the blessed ones to come, and the ones expected to come without blemish. But now you can see what's going on. It happens to PDP, and now they can't see what's going on within themselves. Now I'm just trying to tell the APC to look inward, because people are looking at them too.
Thank you, Tosin. My time is fast spent. Thank you. Julie, concluding on this.
So, let them do their oversight functions with the fear of God. That is what matters. To some people, committee work is simply an opportunity to make money, but they should fear God. They should work for Nigerians. Whatever is wrong that they see, they should be able to talk about it.
Nigerians are congratulating them already.
So they should not see this as they should not treat the assignment they've been given with levity. They should do it honestly. You know, I once told you about someone in the National Assembly who wanted to give me a story, but immediately they reached out to him. He said, "No, Jide, look, forget that story. We are talking with those people now." That was the end of the story that he planned to give me, which means that
cooperating now.
Yes, that which means he's an enemy of his country. So that's not what we want. It's, let's see how things pan out. Majid was talking about hoping that they will pass the budget on time. The speed with which budgets get passed is not solely determined by the National Assembly. The ministers and the heads of the MDGs, they also must come out quickly, because when they request for them to come, they should come and come prepared. It took the president to order his ministers to go and present their budget the last time, because they were wasting the time of the National Assembly. But when there's delay, Nigerians simply just abuse the National Assembly. Maybe things will change, you know, because they don't, sometimes they will come and they will not come with some documents that these guys need to be able to ask the right questions. So I hope that the culture will change under the leadership of Lawan.
All right, moving on now. For 10 years now, Nigeria has battled the scourge of Boko Haram insurgency to no end. Many citizens continue to wonder how a supposed ragtag sect is becoming more daring. The governor of BORNO State, the state was hit by the insurgency, Babagana ZULUM, has given us another dimension to their activities. Governor ZULUM raised an alarm that Boko Haram insurgents now use drones to monitor military operations. While hosting the visiting Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila in Maiduguri, the governor called for a review of the capacity of the military in terms of modern warfare. Otherwise, the insurgency would never end. Should we agree with him, gentlemen? Mojid, this is another dimension to this whole thing, and my greatest fear, thank God they still don't have air power, but it's getting there gradually. If anything, any flying objects on our airspace and cannot be controlled and not discovered by our security forces.
We have said it severally on this program that we need to fund our security operations. Our security architecture must be modernized. There are no two ways. You can imagine even flying insects in the space of America. The moment you detect any metal, they'll bring it down. But we don't have that capacity. We must deploy resources into funding our security architecture if we must compete, if we must win this battle. Because these guys are not sleeping. They get funded, and you can see the videos they record and they post out. You can see how they have been able to move bases. I mean, they have informants. The way they operate, they will go and confront a military base and overpower them. So, Boko Haram battle, the insurgent battle, is not just a joke. Fine, our guys are doing well, but we need to do better. It's not about deploying men. It's not about the number, the men and materials we have, but the quality. We need to improve on our security architecture and modernize them so that we can have anti-drone missiles, we can have there are so many of these devices that you can use to detect the movement of any metal, because there is no way you can have a drone, any flying object that will not have a metal. We have metal detectors that will detect all this microwave stuff that they use in driving the drones. So it's really, really worrisome, and I'm happy that the governor, Babagana ZULUM, is raising this to as high as the number 4 citizen of the country, the Speaker of the House of Representatives. So our security architecture needs a dramatic change. We must improve on our intelligence gathering, security architecture, funding. I think the funding is coming, but probably it's being misapplied. So I think we need to do something on that.
Babajide, to have access to drone in our airspace, what do you make of this?
It's not entirely new. In December last year, when I went to the Northeast, soldiers told me that they were in their military base in Cross Kawa, that's in BORNO North. And it was like 7 p.m. and they saw this drone flying towards their base. So the soldiers told me that Boko Haram had begun to use drones. And I thought I even said it on the program after I returned from BORNO. So what the governor is saying is not new. They have been using drones for some time. What is said that shocks me is that they have more sophisticated weapons than the army. It may not be entirely true, but there are some weapons, there are some upgraded versions of some weapons in our inventory that they have.
Upgraded version?
Yes, like, for example, if we are talking about maybe, let's use the example of anti-aircraft gun or even rocket-propelled grenades. Some of the rocket-propelled grenades that they use, the RPGs that they use, came through Libya. Some of them belong to NATO. Once the military seizes those weapons and they check, they will see that these ones came from NATO, stolen from Libya and found the way they went to Nigeria. So some of them are better than the ones that we have.
Upgraded versions.
Yes, the upgraded versions, the more modern versions of what we have, came in through Libya and fell into their hands.
And if you imagine the member countries of NATO,
yes, because NATO was active in Libya when they were trying to kick Gaddafi away. So some of those weapons, they have some better versions, upgraded versions. But generally speaking, what they use are the things that they steal from us. One thing that they may also have, that I have observed that they have, is quality mechanics. When Boko Haram is going on an operation, they go with mechanics, they go with organizers.
Really?
Yes. If their military vehicle breaks down, they repair immediately. Now, when Boko Haram seized Baga, when they seized the headquarters of the Multinational Joint Task Force in Baga, you need to go back and watch that the video that they released. Because when the army was lying that they repelled them, they now released a video of themselves inside the Multinational Joint Task Force headquarters. Their organizer was working on some of the disused Nigerian army vehicles at the base. And do you know that before they left, some of the military vehicles that we had abandoned, they found a way to revive those vehicles and they drove them away. Allah. So, who are the people that came with them that were able to fix these military vehicles and then went with them? They may have an edge in that area because we are losing many vehicles. Some of the military vehicles, we just abandon them and say they are not good enough. If those boys get their hands on some of them, you'll be shocked at what they can do with them. So these are some of the things, and everywhere they go, they loot our weapons. These are the things giving them the edge. I think that at this stage now, no one can say anymore that this is a war that we have won. I even like the language that Bajabia Miller used. He said, we are not yet there. So we can no longer lie to anyone that we have won the war because we have not won the war. There are places that as governor today, the governor of BORNO State dare not go. The army will not even, there are places that the army has refused to even deploy troops to. It's difficult. I can't go into details of some of these things because it will amount to giving too much on air. But this is a fact. We are dealing with an enemy that even I am completely surprised at their capacity to reinvent themselves and refuse to die. We kill so many of these people, but they keep coming back.
Recruiting more people. Some
communities that we seized before, we have to go back and reseize the community again. Because we don't have enough troops to put in the governor mentioned that there is need for more troops. Yeah. Up to December last year, the highest number of troops that were put in the Northeast was 38,000. I don't know if Burate and his men have increased that number now. But when you look at the size of BORNO State, there's no way you can secure BORNO State conveniently with 38,000 troops. You can't even secure Borno North alone with 38,000 troops because it's such a big area. That local government, that Kukawa local government, is bigger than some states in the Southeast. Just that local government alone.
And
so this is the thing.
Another difficult thing about the Borno geography is the fact that it borders 3 countries, Niger Republic, Chad, and Cameroon. So Borno State borders these 3, and this is where the insurgents, I mean, from especially those from Libya. You could recall that, recall that the kidnapper that abducted the village chief in a casino said when he was arrested.
Said he was trained
in Libya. Yeah, he said he moved from Nigeria, went to Libya, he was trained, and came to Nigeria via some of these porous borders. So the porosity of our borders, I mean, I was happy
while
that
thing is right. While you are right, we are facing greater difficulty in dealing with Boko Haram in those border areas.
In those border areas.
It is not in Borno Central or Borno South that we have the greatest because it is in Borno North. Yeah. Because it's Borno North that shares borders with those three countries.
And it's a very large expanse of land, and that's the area where you have Goza, and thank God the Emma is back now, and I hope that the Emma of Goza can actually stay there and...
there's not
any updates?
The Emir goes beyond, if he travels more than 10 kilometers outside of Goza, it's not safe.
Any update on this aid workers were abducted?
No, nothing new. I'm sure they are trying to see if they can get some money off the government. And when they wait and we don't give them money, they can get violent. But I think government will still eventually negotiate, because if you remember those oil workers, they were eventually released.
Yeah.
You know, they were eventually released by a swap.
And
I don't know.
And the University of Maiduguri lecturers.
But some people were disputing the faction that actually abducted these people.
No, it's the Mama Nur faction that carried out the raid on Dapchi.
Okay.
Yes. The Shekau faction operates largely in Borno South and parts of Borno Central. The Mama Nur faction operates in Borno North.
Yeah.
And that is the most dangerous faction. So anything that happens in that whole area, Ram, which is a border town to Cameroon, or all of those communities close to Chad and Niger, on that Borno North corridor, you know that
including Baga?
Yeah? Yes, including Baga. They are the ones who captured Baga, and they still retain part of Baga today. They still retain. The Navy has not been able to go back to its naval headquarters because it's not safe to go there. But we retook the Multinational Joint Task Force headquarters from them, but they are still holding parts of Baga as we speak. So any operation in that area, because the factions sometimes clash, they always kill Shekau's people. So Shekau's people will not take the risk of going to those people's area. You know? So anything that happens in that area, and these days, any attack that happens from parts of Yobe State, especially Gaidam, all of those areas close to Niger Republic through Yobe, it is the Mama Nur faction.
Okay.
So this Mama Nur faction must have been responsible for the kidnap of the aid workers.
Oh, thank you, Babajide Kolade Otitoju, for your contribution. And Moji Jamio, when are we visiting the Deputy Speaker?
When are we going to his rustic village?
Yeah, to go and eat pounded yam and rice. Anytime you are ready, we are set.
All right, and that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program, and also watch Journalist Hangout on our platforms showing on the screen. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Ayodele Uzubaku. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.